We are live. So, hi guys. I am so sorry that this is starting 17 minutes later than it was expected to start. Well, this is the first episode, so I hope that this doesn't continually happen, okay? And I will try to improve and be better. So I hope you guys are doing great. I hope you guys are doing fantastic and welcome to this channel. If you're new, welcome, and if you're not new, then welcome back. It is so great to have you guys here. So I'm just going to check and be sure that everything is going on well, and then we can start if that's okay. Still in a minute now. Let me just confirm that everything is as it should be, and we'll be good to go. Okay, guys. Um, Giving it a last minute check. I want to be sure that you guys have everything that you need. Okay. All right. All right. Welcome, guys. Welcome. Okay. Okay. So,
Are you a UK parent with kids under 10?
all right. So we're like, yeah, that's it. So in today's video, like I mentioned, or like the title says, I've said it earlier that we're going to be critiquing articles weekly now, so that all of you who email me and tell me, oh, I want to critique this article, I don't know what to do, help me critique this article. This is your chance. You can send me your what's it called now, your article, and we can critique it on a weekly basis. Anyone who sends me their space, first come first serve basis. Okay, so what we're going to do is I've chosen a particular article, and the critique tool we're using is the CASP tool, and this is the website. So you can check the link in the description box. The link to the CASP tool is there, and the link to the article that we're going to be critiquing today. Okay, so the critic is going to go in two parts. The part one will be today, and the remaining part of it will be next week, which is next week, Wednesday at 4 p.m. Don't worry, I won't be late. So now this is the article. The article is by it talks. Let me just go all the way to the beginning. Okay, so this is a 6 month randomized control trial to test the efficacy of a lifestyle intervention for weight gain management in schizophrenia. This is the article that I have chosen by Atox et al. 2013. So that's the article we're going to be reviewing, and this is the critic tool that we're going to be using. Since it's a, like the title says, it's a randomized controlled trial. I hope you know the various types of studies that we have, but this particular one is a randomized controlled trial. And if you look at the CASP tool right now, you will see that they have provided you with a list of different tools that you can use for various studies. You have the one for, like this study I mentioned, the randomized control trial checklist. So that's the one we're going to be using. We're going to click on the PDF form and we're going to access it. But we want to check the remaining ones that they have. They have the CAST tool for systematic reviews. They have the one for qualitative studies. They have the one for cohort studies, for diagnostic studies, case control study, economic evaluation checklist, and clinical prediction rule checklist. I haven't used this one before. So the clinical prediction rule checklist, that's the other one. So they have so many checklists, right? So we're going to be using the one that applies to our study today, which is this one, this CASP randomized control trial checklist, and it was actually newly updated, which I think is cool. So we're going to click on the PDF form, and so this is the form. Sorry, 1 second. So this is the form, and it's quite detailed, right? So I'm going to zoom it a bit so that we can have access and then we can view it properly, right? Don't mind me, I say right a lot. Okay, so this is the CASP tool. CASP means Critical Appraisal Skill Program, like the name says here. And it has a series of questions that you would answer in order to critique your article. But before you get into critiquing using the CASP tool proper, one thing that the CASP tool lacks, and I like to do before I even start, is to make sure that I have an introduction for my critique. Now, I like to introduce the problem statement that the study is trying to solve. So, in this case, if you look at this article very well, it is about lifestyle intervention for weight gain management in schizophrenia. So, if I'm to start my critic, I want to write a bit. I mean, that's just me being a bit extra, but it doesn't hurt to be a bit extra, right? So I'll start a bit by writing about weight gain management in schizophrenia. Like we all know it's a big issue, particularly in relation to the medication that they consume. So I kind of give that intro and reference it before I even now go on. And after I have written that, so I will make sure that I talk about the title a little bit. Is the title good enough? Do you think you're able to understand what the study is going to be about? And for me, the answer would be yes in this case. I mean, this title is very descriptive. It's a 6-month randomized control trial that's trying to check how effective the lifestyle intervention. That means there is a lifestyle intervention that was used to check if they can manage the weight that is gained by schizophrenia. So this title is descriptive enough, it is detailed enough. And then you go ahead and look at the abstract and see if it contains what it's supposed to contain, which is the background or introduction, the method, the results, conclusion, and in some cases a bit of recommendation, and even has the clinical trial identifier. So I think that's really good. So you can mention that the abstract and the title were very detailed and descriptive enough, and that makes all the sense in the world. So before we now go into the CASP tool proper, like before we now go into critiquing according to the rule by according to the checklist that CASP has provided for us, right? So one thing I want to mention, just a quick cheat for anyone who uses Google Scholar, is if you want to get your references from Google Scholar, like I did for this one. I got this reference from Google Scholar, but this is the study right here. This is the study right here. So I got the study from Google Scholar. And if you want to get your reference list from here, instead of trying to type it all the way out, or particularly if you don't use Mendeley, but if you do use Mendeley, that's brilliant. Or if you don't know how to use Mendeley, I have a video that has detailed how to use Mendeley. It's on the channel, so you can make sure to check it out. It's on how to use Mendeley, and it is pretty much very explanatory and very descriptive. So you'll be able to find your way around it. But if you're using Google Scholar, if you click on this quotation mark right here, this mark right here, it says cite. So if you click on that, it brings a reference list for you, and it depends on the type of the referencing style that you want to use. So if it's APA, if it's Chicago, if it's Harvard, if it's Vancouver, whichever one it is. And oftentimes in the UK, I think most schools use Harvard, although some of those schools use Vancouver, but Harvard oftentimes. So you can go ahead and just copy it from here, and then you paste it, and there you have it. You have your reference. But make sure that you now edit it according to your school's Harvard guideline, because I think every school in the UK has their own type of Harvard guideline. So make sure you edit it according to that. So I digress. My digression is over now. Now back to what we would really want to do, which is to critique. So we have opened this randomized control trial CASP checklist, and here we are. These are the list of questions. Oh, and yes, this also provides you with the reference detail. This is, if you want to cite this article, this is what you will cite. You just copy this and then you paste it and fill in the name of the checklist, which is in this case randomized control trial, the checklist, and then you put online and then available at, put the URL, copy the URL right here, and then insert it there, and that's it. You have your reference. So let's go into this now. We have 11 questions for this randomized control trial, if I'm right, but we're going to do the very first 6 for this one, and then we'll do the remaining 5 later next week. All right, so did the study address, that's the first question now, did the study address a clearly focused research question? So these are the things for you to consider before you can answer this question. Was the study designed to assess the outcome of an intervention? Is the research question focused in terms of population, intervention given, comparator chosen, and outcome measures? So how would you be able to tell this? First, what you need to note is you need to read your article. The link to this article is in the description box. Like I said, you need to read it extensively, read it deeply. But here is the way to answer that question, which says that, did the study address a clearly focused research question? Yes, some studies do have their research questions written out properly. Like they will tell you, these are the research questions. This study intends to answer whether blah 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 blah, like that. But in some cases, the research questions are not as obvious as you would expect them to be, but you'll be able to deduce whether they have a clearly written research question, right? So now let's answer the very first question here. It says, was the study designed to assess the outcome of an intervention? Now, from the title, it's a 6-month randomized control trial to assess the efficacy of a lifestyle intervention. So you would agree with me that yes, right? You would agree with me that yes, the study is designed to assess the outcome of an intervention. The intervention in this case is that lifestyle intervention. We don't know what the name yet, but as you read on, you would know what the name is. So you can read through the background where they tell you about schizophrenia, the drug use, the weight gain, and all that. And then by the time you get to the end of this introduction or background, whichever one it is called, they will tell you why it should state if there is a gap in study and the justification for this particular study or the aim of what they intend to achieve. So you can use that to deduce what the research question would be, although it wasn't clearly written out. So you can also write that if you are right, the written part of your critic, right? So let's check this. Does the aim of the present Thus, the aim of the present study was to test the efficacy of a 12-week group lifestyle wellness program as a strategy for weight gain management in individuals with schizophrenia. So I think that's as explanatory as possible, as explanatory as possible. The population study is patients with schizophrenia. So the intervention given is the lifestyle education, or the lifestyle intervention rather, the lifestyle wellness program, whichever one you want to call it. That's the intervention given. Now, what's the comparator? Since it's a randomized control trial, you would expect that you would have the test group and you would have the control group. The test groups are the ones receiving the intervention, and the control group will probably be receiving something else. And in this case, the control groups are receiving normal standard of care. I think it's written somewhere. The control groups are receiving normal standard of care. Okay. Yeah, so it says a multicentric randomized control trial was conducted to compare the efficacy of this lifestyle wellness program with controls on a standard care group, right? Patients on the intervention group and on standard care group had regular visits to the psychiatrist and attended regular sessions of other psychosocial interventions offered by the program they were enrolled. Basically, what they're saying is one group had that intervention, which is the lifestyle wellness program, while the other group had the standard care, which means just they had all other things but the lifestyle wellness program. So that pretty much sums up the answer to this question, which says that uh, was the comparator chosen, right? And then the outcomes measured. Obviously, the outcome measure will be a change in weight gain or something. So if you check it, it will be stated there what they intend to use. All this should be under methods, by the way. So they would record weight. Yes. Data on social and demographic characteristics, clinical data, and physical examination, weight, height, BMI, waist circumference, and blood pressure were routinely recorded. Prior to that, no. Let's go to the paragraph before that. The primary outcome was defined as weight and body mass. Oh Jesus, as weight, I'm getting very passionate. As weight and body mass index changes, which is the BMI. So now that's the primary outcome. You go back to the question again, it says outcome measures. So those are the outcome measures, the weight and the BMI that were measured, were the outcomes measured. Now, to now answer this question, did the study address a clearly focused research question? The answer is yes. So you can go ahead and tick yes. Now, I'm sure you're probably wondering, hold on, what if I'm supposed to write? I cannot just tick yes, the study addressed a clearly focused research question. So I'm going to refer you to one of the videos that I have on my channel that is detailed, quite detailed actually, about how to critique an article and write about it. Okay, so you can check that out as well. That would make it easy for you to understand how to go about the writing. But I'll still mention it passively here so that at least it will go hand in hand. But check that video, it's as detailed as it can ever be. Okay, so now, did the study address a clearly focused research question? The answer is yes. So if you want to go about writing it, I've already told you how you would introduce it. And then I'll start with the study addressed um the study addressed a particular problem in relation to weight gain as seen in schizophrenia. However, the research question, it wasn't categorically written out, but could be deduced as what's the effectiveness of lifestyle, that's the lifestyle change now, the lifestyle intervention, the wellness lifestyle program. So it could be deduced as the effectiveness of a lifestyle intervention program in the reduction of weight gain seen in schizophrenia. They didn't write it, but it could be seen as that. And all this, you tell them how all this were also clearly written out. The population, the intervention, the comparator, and the outcome measures, all clearly written out, which makes all the sense in the world. So now we can go on to the second question, which is, was the assignment of participants to interventions randomized? Right. The answer to this ideally should be seen under the methodology. That's where you have all the processes that went through before they could achieve their results, right? So this should be seen under methodology normally, but we're going to check the study and see where they have theirs and what it is. So it says, was the assignment of participants to interventions randomized? And the first question to consider is, how was randomization carried out? Was the method appropriate? Okay, so let's answer that question. How was randomization carried out? So we're going to look for the answer to that on this page. So although it says here that blah blah blah, on the results, randomization and participant characteristics. Okay, let's see if the answer is here. This is just accounting for that. Did they write about randomization? Okay, regular sessions, psychosocial interventions before the program. Okay, trying to look for where they have it written. Normally it should be under method, so we're going to try to look extensively under method and see if the answer to this question is actually there. This is the primary outcome. I want them to write something about how they were allocated. Participants were already enrolled. There clinically. Okay, aha, found it. It's under method. So participants right here. Can you see my cursor right here? Yeah, participants who agreed to take part in the study signed written informed consent and were randomly assigned to the intervention group or standard care group. Those were the two groups that I said, test and control. The intervention group is the test group, the standard care group is the control group. So they were randomly, that word randomly, they were randomly assigned using a randomization table available on the website www.randomization.com. So what does this mean for the question? It says, how was randomization carried out? We have answered that now. We have said, yes, there is randomization. It was carried out by using a randomization table. Was the method appropriate? Now, this is where the critique goes further. What you would do here is to say, you go and check on the internet, actually, and check articles about the randomization table, that particular one, and look for the advantages and the disadvantages and see if it's something that is quite approved. So by the time you find the answer to that and you write that answer, then you reference it, that is how you, like, that's how you bring it home. How was randomization carried out and was the method used for randomization appropriate? You know, there are several methods. It could be dice method, it could be computer statistics, it could be anything. So you just, for this case now, it was a randomization table that was used. So you can decide to tell us about the importance of randomization table and if there are any disadvantages at all, tell us as well. Put that there, like, oh, randomization table was used and it's been found out that randomization table is actually a good way of randomizing because this referencing, or randomization table was used. However, this method of randomization has been known to be outdated. I'm just giving an example, okay? So you reference that as well if that's your opinion, not your opinion, sorry. If that's what you found out, if that's what studies have shown, so you reference it as well, right? So was randomization sufficient enough to eliminate systematic bias? That's still, you still refer to that randomization table. Do you think it will eliminate systematic bias? What have studies got to say about that? Was the allocation sequence concealed from investigators and participants? Now, what does this mean? You see, when you check studies and you hear something about blinding or concealment or basically blinding or concealment, it means that the way people are distributed into the intervention group or the control group, both the investigators or the researchers and participants were not aware of which group they belonged to. Do you get? And the whole essence of this is to minimize bias. And what do they mean by bias in this sense is, it's just basically simple. Like, let me give you an example. If you are carrying out a study now to check if paracetamol works for headache, and then you have, let's say, 4 people, you randomly divide them into two groups each, and then you give this group paracetamol. You are aware that you give them paracetamol, and the other group you didn't give them anything, you give them water. There is every possibility that by the time you are going to record your findings, you're going to favor those you gave paracetamol because there's going to be that form of bias. But if you come as a researcher and you are not aware whether the group you are getting their study or the group you are getting their data belong to the group that took paracetamol or the group that did not take paracetamol, do you get? So in that way, the data you're recording is fair because you don't know who belongs to which group, right? So that's the whole essence of this allocation sequence and concealment. It's just in a bid to minimize bias, right? So if we check the study now, all this should still be under methods, basically. All this should still be under method to see whether the there was blinding or concealment, okay? And sometimes you can have double blinded kind of study, but they might say, okay, say for example, okay, now here, blind investigators. It doesn't mean they are blind like they don't have eyes, okay? So what they mean by this blind now is concealed, like the investigators did not know who belonged to which group, right? So that answers that. And then what you will now do next is to tell us, look for studies that speaks or that look for studies about blinding in a randomized control trial and tell us the implication of this, whether positive, whether negative. That's where your critic comes in. Tell us the implication of having blinding in a study. I'm sure the first thing will be that it minimizes bias. So reference that. Tell us where you got that reference from. Reference that, and then you can move on. Okay. And you can, it doesn't have to be just one line of critique in relation to the blinding. You can go, if it's 2 or 3 steps, if you want to really critique it, go ahead and critique it for that. That's fine. Just make sure you put your reference. But about the blinding of the participant, I went through the study and I do not think I saw anything about blinding of the participant. I think it's quite understandable, right? So if I'm to answer that here now, that says, was the allocation sequence concealed from investigators and participants? I would say the allocation, the study stated that the investigators or the researchers were blinded when recording the findings, right? But it's, and then you give that your reference, like blinding in randomized control trials helps to eliminate bias, blah 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 blah, and all that, and you reference it. However, the study did not ascertain whether the participants were blinded or not. But this is quite understandable owing to the form, like the method of the study. These interventions are quite what's it called? Like they are quite, the participants are quite aware of what the intervention is, because they're the only ones receiving the lifestyle intervention aside the other aside every other thing they receive. So it might be quite hard for it to be concealed. Do you get? So that's how you defend that. Although it wasn't categorically written, but you don't think they would have been able to achieve blinding. That's you giving a bit of your opinion based on, you're giving a reasoned judgment based on what you have read from the article. Okay? So that's that. We move to the third question now. Were all participants who entered the study accounted for at its conclusion? Were losses to follow up and exclusion after randomization accounted for? Were participants analyzed in the study groups to which they were randomized? Was the study stopped early? If so, what was the reason? So they just want to know what went wrong with the participant. Like, did they account for everything? So we go to that study, and I think I saw something here about results. Although this session that says randomization and participants characteristics, we're mainly interested in the participants characteristics, and it says a total of 160 patients were included in the study. 81 were randomly allocated to the lifestyle wellness program, that's the intervention group now, and 79 patients to the standard care group. All right. So there's a figure 1 that shows a whole lot of things. So 13 patients assigned to the LWP group did not attend any of the sessions as follows. 4 patients declined. 1 patient started new activities at the same time of the group. 4 patients started working in the beginning of the intervention. 4 patients were missed for unknown reasons. During the 3 months, there were 8 dropouts. So they basically accounted for almost everybody. So you would say that the study was quite accountable, and you give the reason for that. Okay, you give the reason why you're saying they're quite accountable, which is they stated everything: who had relapsed, who had whatever, who dropped out, 6 month follow-up, 3 month follow-up, the details, and then the social demographics and all that, the clinical characteristics were also all given, as they said, in table 1. So where is table 1? Now here we have it: male, marital status, everything, and then according to the program this, according to the standard care this, and that will, they'll be able to check if there is a difference between both groups. Do you understand that now? So I think almost all were well accounted for, right? So that said, one thing that I think this might be missing a bit is, okay, this is the part, this is section B, that wants to say whether the study was methodologically sound. But I think this still needs a bit more to go. And it says, is the basic study design valid for randomized control trial? I mean, we've tried to answer, we've tried answering those 3 questions, and that would pretty much answer everything for you. Like, we've answered that. But I want to add that when it comes to validity, and in a study like this, we have to always weigh the validity and reliability. We can't just assume it, we have to always spell it out. So now for that validity, what is validity? Validity is when let me see, just use the word something. I want to say a tool, but it could be something. Okay, when there's a tool and it measures what it's made to measure or what it intends to measure. What do I mean by this? Say, for example, you have a sphygmomanometer that is used to measure blood pressure, right? It is used to measure blood pressure. You will not want to wrap it around your waist now and say you're using it as a tape measure, right? You have a tape measure, put it around your waist, it can measure your waist circumference, your arm circumference, all that. That's what a tape measure is used for. So a sphig is used to measure that. BMI is used to measure weight. So in this case now, you have to tell us about validity and reliability. I like to always mention that. And for reliability, now what is reliability? I remember somebody sent me a message recently asking that I said something about reliability being if a researcher carries out something and others are being able to carry it out as well, and wasn't quite clear about what I meant by reliability. Now what reliability is this. It means that if I'm going to use an illustration so that it will be very easy to understand. I'm not going to pour down a crammed definition for you. Reliability means, just bring out that word reliable. It means that if I bring two researchers now here and they carry out this research and they get a particular score, right? And I bring another set of research, or I bring several other researchers, they would also get that same score because there is an established way that that score was gotten. So if other researchers also come and try to do the same thing, they would arrive at that same result. That is what reliability is. Okay, so in this case now, you're going to critique the study used thank you for remember quite well. The study used BMI and weight to determine I'm trying to bring it back out now. So the weight that was measured and all that was done using weight, height, BMI, waist circumference, and blood pressure. All that. Blood pressure is not part of the weight measurement. It's just some other characteristics that were given. But at least they tried using for the primary outcome. It was actually the weight, which is right here, and the body mass index. And so when it comes to reliability and validity now, you can now tell us like, okay, how valid is weight? What do they mean by weight? Right? It just means when you climb a scale. I think that's what they're trying to refer to here. You climb the scale and they tell your weight in kilograms, right? And the BMI is also done. See, BMI was calculated as weight in kilograms divided by square of the height in meters. That's why kilograms measured in kilogram per meter square, right? So how valid is BMI? Pull out studies on that, and then you'll be able to tell us about the validity of the tool that was used, which is BMI and weight, and the reliability of those tools, and if there were other things that were done within the study that would also help the reliability. So validity and reliability are two key things that there are two key factors that has to be considered when you're critiquing, particularly a quantitative. No, I'm not going to say particularly. There are two key things that are important when you're critiquing quantitative research. Why I'm saying that is it doesn't apply to qualitative. In qualitative research, you're talking about credibility, dependability, and that's not what we're doing today. We're talking about quantitative study here. Okay, guys, so that said, add that your reliability and validity, and then we can move on to the next section. How long have we been on this live chat? I'm sorry. Oh, we've been here for 34 minutes. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. That's insane. All right. So let's keep going for a bit longer, and then we can call it a day. Okay, guys. And we'll pick it up from there next week. So for the B part now, the section B part, which was what we're trying to answer earlier as well, tried answering some part of this already. So I think we might just go through this a bit and then start our intro from there next week. I don't like my videos being too long if you already know me, right? So now the number 4 says, were the participants blind to interventions they were given? I've answered that. They couldn't have been blinded because it's not like they are giving them a medication or something. It's a lifestyle program. You can see that there is something different than from what you're used to. Although it wasn't categorically stated, but you can pick that out. And then were the investigators blind to the intervention they were giving to participants? I mean, they mentioned they were, but they did not give detail of how the blinding was done, but they did mention they were the people assessing slash analyzing outcomes blinded. So you need to check the study for that as well. I know the study stated here that the investigators were blinded, so you have to check as well whether the people giving the intervention that did the analysis of the study were also blinded, but that wasn't categorically written actually. That wasn't categorically written. And something about intent to treat. Intent to treat was conducted only to weigh differences since it was our primary outcome, right? So the primary outcome is just to pick out the differences. The intent to treat analysis included 146 patients with a dropout rate of this. So I'm mentioning this intent to treat because there was something about it here earlier, and I know I did not go into details, where the participants analyzed in the study groups to which they were randomized, which is the intention to treat. So that was quite detailed there. And this study was not with an intention to treat, it was just to pick out the differences between both groups, right? And that was also mentioned in the study. So all these we have answered. Were they blinded? Were they not blinded? We've answered all that. Now to the fifth question, which says that were the study groups similar at the start of the randomized controlled trial? Were the baseline characteristics of each group clearly set out? Yes, I think that was what we're trying. That was with the table I was showing you earlier about age, sex, socioeconomic groups, and all that. Yes, they were. Were there any differences between the study groups that could affect the outcomes? Okay, so you check out both groups and look at, like, you check out both groups right here. You check out both groups right here. I'm rushing over this away and see if there were differences between them. See, male female ratio here, the age, check it, and use the speed factor, look at all that, and then you'll be able to tell if there were differences that are worth picking out, and what the socio-economic status, they have the marital status, the ethnicity status, their diagnosis and all that, age of onset, antipsychotic drugs, all the details were clearly written out. So you'll be able to tell what the differences are. And if you're not certain how to analyze it, just go on to how the study itself analyzed the findings that they got, okay? And you'll be able to get your answers from there. And if you want me to start from this number 5 next week, then let me know in the comment section if you want me to start from number 5, okay? So or if you want me to explain it a bit further, let me know in the comment section and I will do that. But that's pretty much all you have to do. And apart from the experimental intervention, did each study group receive the same level of care? That is, were they treated equally? Was there a clearly defined study protocol? If any interventions were given, were they similar between the two groups? Were the follow-up intervals the same for each study group? So what I would say about this number 6 is, we've mentioned this earlier as well, which was there was the intervention group and there was the control group. And for that control group, the only difference was they were receiving the basic care that every other resident of every other participant was receiving. The only difference was that lifestyle intervention that was being given. So that's the only difference between both groups. And so far, I think that was clearly stated, and they were surely treated equally because this group has the basic care, the other group has basic care as well. The only difference is that intervention. So you can always state that. Now, one thing is, For section C, we will start on that next week. Okay, we'll move to that next week and then write about talk about it extensively. Okay, and now before I go on, before I log off, what I will say is this: the CASP tool does not cover every aspect of your critic. It doesn't cover everything. Remember, I said something about validity and reliability earlier. They didn't categorically spell it out, even though for the first part they said, is the basic studies design valid for randomized control trial? But they didn't say anything about the tool in question, which is worth remembering. Remember, they did not say much about the tool, so make sure you check that tool yourself for validity and reliability of the tool that was used to assess the outcome measures, right? That's one. And another thing is you have to read your sections carefully and be sure to pick out anything that doesn't seem right, okay? Anything that doesn't seem right or anything that is quite right and you think would affect, like anything that is right and you think would influence the results that will be gotten. It could be positive, it could be negative. So you have to make sure you state that. So anything that stands out, like all those blinding, concealment, all those things are good when it comes to research. So you have to point them out, like they did this, which was good, but I think they did this, which wasn't good. I think they did. That's basically what your critic is all about. So critic is not just you picking out the bad things, just like I say in critical analysis, right? So I think that pretty much covers the first two parts, the section A and B part of the CASP tool. So you can see that the CASP tool is good, but it's not without its limitations, right? So you have to learn how to adjust with these limitations. You have to make sure that you are aware of these limitations and you don't forget them. Like, remember what I said, the reliability, the validity, and some other key things like that. So make sure you bear that in mind. And I think that will be all for now. Thank you if you have watched so far, and if you are rewatching this live stream like after it has aired, that's absolutely fine. You can leave a comment, and if you're struggling with anything, any part of critiquing an article, my email is in the description box. You can send me an email and let's see what kind of help I'll be able to provide for you. So, or to you or for you, whichever one. All right. So kindly let me know that. And I mentioned when I wrote it like yesterday about this live video that I have this very special announcement. Well, all the details are not in yet, but I would like to like put it out there that in the coming week, that will be next week now. Next week, I'm going to put like a questionnaire, a link to a questionnaire in the description box where you can pick out what aspect of your research work or academic work you're struggling with and that I will be able to help you with. So you can sign up for whichever one you're struggling with. I hope you guys are as excited as I am. It is not free. Okay, let me put that also. Okay, I think I should come up. That should come first, right? Anyway, it is not free, but you have to pay a token to belong to a group of people who can help you out with your research work and your academic work. And I think that's really fantastic. It's going to be a really good community. And if you are interested in that, the form will be there. You can fill it, and I will reach out to you and assign you to groups, and we can have like a tutor meeting, a tutor student meeting kind of. All right, guys, not wasting any more of your time. Thank you for watching this far. Thank you for staying live with me. I love having you guys here, and it's been a pleasure explaining these things to you. And if you understand, that's marvelous. And if you still have some issues, please send me an email. I'll be glad to respond to them. Thank you for being here, and till I see you or till you watch my next video, which is on Saturdays. Maybe Saturdays and Mondays now, but at least for now, Saturdays. Make sure you put a smile on somebody's face wherever you are. I love you guys. I love you all. All right. Bye.